I just had one of the coolest, most overwhelming, most expensive fandom experiences ever. But was it worth the price tag? Live long and prosper, Star Trek nerds. I'm Stephanie with Unconditional Adventures, and I'm about to board my first ever Star Trek The Cruise. This is Star Trek The Cruise 9 out of Port Canaveral. 7 nights. I'm very excited about this cruise. It's been a year in the making. It's probably the most expensive trip I've ever put together, but we're about to start check-in and get on board and nerd it up. So let's check it out and see what this is all about. See if it's worth it for you too. I'm not coming at this as a first-time Star Trek fan, but I am a first-time Star Trek cruiser. I've been to 2 Star Trek conventions in Las Vegas, so I thought I had an idea of what to expect. But this was my first time seeing what happens when an entire ship gets turned into a floating Star Trek event. So in this video, I'll focus on the Trek experience that my best friend Nandy and I had, and if it's worth the cost we paid to get here, not on Royal Caribbean or the Adventure of the Seas, which truly felt like background characters to the Star Trek cruise itself. This is definitely not a cruise with a few Trek activities. This is a takeover. The entire ship belongs to the fandom. That means the entertainment company putting on the cruise could completely transform the ship visually, which they did in impressive fashion. Almost every restaurant, bar, and lounge had a new name that fit into the Star Trek universe. The decor in almost all the main areas was themed, from actual Star Trek props and costumes in the promenade to themed table covers in the casino. Even the elevators were turned into themed turbo lifts. Plus, the ship soundtrack was all Star Trek themed music during the week. I was blown away with the immersion and the attention to detail. The company brings its own cruise director on board for the Star Trek cruise, JT. He's a former Holland America cruise director and has the perfect personality for it. He also seems like he's actually a Star Trek fan and enjoying himself. The company also brought a full crew of entertainment staff, photographers, and videographers, and customer service staff. It's obvious these guys know what they're doing and how to put on a themed cruise. And the fandom knows how to enjoy it. I found every level of fan on board, from hardcore Trekkies who have done every Star Trek cruise and convention to a couple of wives of Trekkies who were just there for the cruise part. There were plenty of costumes, cosplay, Star Trek swimwear and Speedos, and themed t-shirts. The energy was high, and almost everyone seemed excited to have a fun week and just enjoy themselves. So what is there to do on board? The short answer, a lot. Panels, classes, interviews, evening shows, pool parties, karaoke, live music, trivia. The schedule was jam-packed with Trek-related fun. So let's take a look at just some of the options offered throughout the week. If you've ever been to a convention, you know there are panels and discussions all the time, everywhere. The cruise felt that way too, only with far fewer people to compete with to get a seat. Almost every Star Trek show that had actors present on the ship had a panel.
Here she is. Okay. Yeah. So you remember your line.
Got that from Jeannie.
I've
that in the show.
acted
And
real guy.
I have a memory for.
Or Denobula.
I was like, wait, did I miss something?
Lies, he tells.
Why are you looking at me?
And you know, we had his, we got my wedding was the last episode, right, with Tarina. So he's got his love life in order, and he's got his career.
So, you know, just like, men worshiping me everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm relating into that, just falling at my feet.
I mean, I always come back to hope. I mean, I feel like you can say that for every Trek convention that has been, but...
The Deep Space Nine panel was just the Ferengis, and Todd Stashwick from Picard hosted the TNG panel to tie him in. William Shatner had his own panel, of course, and Connor Trinneer of Enterprise had full-length interview-style panels with Terry Farrell of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing. We're...
And Anthony Rapp of Discovery.
This is your hot seat. We turned it up.
Ow!
Hello.
I love the inside stories and behind-the-scenes tidbits that come out in panels. It's also nice to just see these people banter together, poke fun at each other, and poke fun at some of the fans. There's plenty of non-actor panels too. The music of Star Trek, the evolution of Star Trek, a technical panel with the props, hair, and makeup and costume designers, and many, many more. Truly something for everyone. One of the ways the cruise sets itself apart is by letting the stars of Star Trek also showcase their passions and talents. Every sea day and every evening, there was a long list of events you could see that showcased the celebrities on board. Some were as basic as a rock climbing competition hosted by Anthony Montgomery, or drinks served by Armin Shimmerman at Quark's Bar. Some were more detailed, like taking a basic stage combat class with Avea Blackwell.
Shoulders. We're gonna roll them back. Great. Make sure you keep a nice bend in your knees. Don't lock your joints out. Good.
Or learning D&D and then watching a gameplay out with Todd Stashwick.
As well, but his move was, his action was a Constitution saving throw, but his move is he's going to take to the air and fly.
You could enter a Texas Hold'em tournament against Anthony Rapp. Or take a Shakespeare class taught by Armin Shimmerman.
Are absolutely right. They're just the wrong reasons.
Nana Visitor held a life advice session as Mama Nana.
Being so healthy and, in quotation marks, young.
Several fans competed in Gorn's Gong Show with some celebrity judges. And Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis ripped my heart out with their performance of Love Letters.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Love, Andy Ladd.
I made this card myself. It's not Santa Claus, it's a kangaroo jumping over a glass of orange juice.
But the big push each night was to the stage shows in the Lyric Theater. These shows were done twice a night to accommodate everyone on board, and we were divided into an early show and a late show group. I liked that because I never had to fight for a seat in the theater. These stage shows were everything from a game show night to Anthony Rapp singing Broadway tunes to a full Reader's Theater style performance of the original series episode, The Man Trap.
Surgeon will enjoy prodding and poking us with his arcane machinery. Go away, we don't want you. What you want is unimportant right now.
I was surprised to learn that the entertainment company works with the actors to put these shows together for nearly a year. Some performances were better than others, and by the end of the week, the evening shows started to feel the same. But I could tell the actors were having fun, and this showed sides of some of them that I certainly wouldn't be able to see otherwise. It's not just about the celebrities on board. There were so many fan events, all kinds of trivia sessions, karaoke every night, book clubs, LGBTQ plus meetups, movies by the pool, bracket challenges, cabin door decoration contest, and a giant costume contest. Yes, we entered as Beverly Crusher and Deanna Troi in our workout uniforms. No, we did not win. Every night had a theme. We had Rep Your Trek night, Heroes and Villains, a Risa party, a 60s night, Q's costume contest, and an Admiral's formal night. I had my doubts about getting into the themes, but they turned out to be a lot of fun. Some people got really into it and went all out. Others were more like me and wore Star Trek t-shirts most of the time. Each themed night had its own themed party, and let me tell you, I was shocked by how much these Star Trek fans like to dance and how long they can party. There was usually a main party area, which then moved to an after party in another area. Even if you never went to a panel, skipped all of the shows, and just sat in a pool or in the promenade all day, you'd still be immersed in the world of Star Trek The Cruise. Some fans are in costume all day, the atmosphere and music are completely immersive, and there truly are Star Trek celebrities walking around everywhere. They walk among us. It's Anthony Montgomery, for anyone that didn't know. I also, earlier today, walked headlong into John Billingsley as I was coming out of the hallway. of my stateroom. I heard someone whistling, so I knew there was a person there, but he was standing right in the corner. And I turned the corner, smacked right into him, and he said, "Oh, hello." And then I said hello and fainted. No, but they're just like everywhere. You can see the cast members everywhere on the ship. It's really cool. This, to me, is the biggest draw. There is always something happening, always someone to see. It never really turns off. One of the things that made this cruise so special was how often Star Trek just kept happening, not only in the scheduled events, but in the hallways, around the ship, in random encounters, and in the overall vibe. From the minute the Star Trek actors were introduced at the sail-away party,
Stop, let's hear it for Denise Crosby!
they were in it. And not just at the photo ops and autograph signings. Since they were also cruising, I spotted them casually around the ship. Every time I had a drink at one of the bars, an actor was there too. I spent a solid 10 minutes in a hot tub with 3 of the actors from Star Trek Discovery. They hit the dance floor and had late night pizza just like I did. For a person who gets completely tongue-tied around celebrities I grew up watching, this was equal parts horrifying and exhilarating all week long. The cruise made it easy to feel like I was in a Star Trek event all week, being surrounded by other fans who just get it. Everywhere I went, I ran into someone who loved my Star Trek shirt, or taught me a new card game, or shared something cool they had just learned. No judgment, just people who love a fandom at all different levels and want to enjoy a cruise together. Of course, there were frustrating things as well. The biggest downside wasn't that there wasn't enough to do, it was the exact opposite. There were so many things happening, especially at night, that it was impossible to see everything. I missed a lot just because too many good options were stacked against each other. I get that the focus is on the main shows and events in the evening, but the fact that I also have to eat dinner at some point made scheduling a bit of a problem. So I either had to pop into an event and leave it early to see something else, or I skipped events altogether because there was too much overlap. It left me with several serious cases of FOMO. One pet peeve of mine that you may pick up on if you watch my other videos is how much I dislike repetitive songs, and I had it with this cruise soundtrack by the time the week was over. If you thought Royal Caribbean's theme song at Perfect Day at Coco was annoying, it ain't got nothing on the Star Trek cruise theme song. Here, see if you can hear it.
Star Trek! Star Trek cruise! Star Trek! Star Trek cruise!
And, that's the whole song, just over and over and over.
About 4 minutes. Those are the only words.
That's the only words. So was Star Trek The Cruise worth the thousands, and I do mean thousands, of dollars I spent to get on board? I loved my time on the cruise. It was truly a week away from reality, getting lost in a fandom I love with people who get it. But that doesn't mean it didn't put a solid dent in my checkbook. It's absolutely a one-of-a-kind fandom splurge and an immersive experience I've never had at a Star Trek convention, but there is no possible way I could afford to sail every single year. Many people who were on the cruise have sailed multiple times, and there were plenty who had been on all 9 cruises. Even with the onboard booking discount you get for the next year's cruise, that was a surprise to see. The Star Trek cruise sells out every year, so obviously the fans think it's worth paying for. I'm not sure if those people make way more money than I do, or if this is the only big vacation they take, but for me, even staying in the cheapest interior cabin, there's no way that that's possible for me. It was an amazing experience, and for me, one that was definitely worth doing. But this is not the kind of trip I see myself doing every year. It's expensive enough that for me, this is probably a once every 5 years type of adventure. I thought I'd answer a few questions that I heard before the cruise, some that I heard on the cruise, and some that I just had myself. So first, will you only enjoy the Star Trek cruise if you are a hardcore Star Trek fan? No, I don't think that's true. I don't think you would have to be. There are certain aspects of the ship that were never even used, like the flow rider and mini golf. I never saw people on those the entire week. So there are definitely some of those aspects of the ship that you could completely utilize and not really know that you're on a themed cruise. But any of the public spaces, including dining rooms, all the pool areas, the main promenade, all of that is going to be completely taken over by theme. So in some cases, there's no way to avoid it. Now, if you wanted to use the spa, that didn't have any theming to it at all, but even just the main dining rooms had theming, like I said, the promenade, places like that. And of course, there's no regular entertainment on board. Everything is Star Trek themed. So if you're okay with those things, then yeah, I think you could enjoy just having a regular cruise vacation. Next, does it feel more like a convention or more like a cruise? I would say it definitely feels more like a convention, but there's no way around realizing that you're on the ocean or on a cruise ship. Obviously, the Las Vegas convention is what I have referenced personally. So the Las Vegas convention, considerably cheaper. So a lot more people go to that than what can afford to go on the cruise, which is one thing that sets the cruise apart. There are not as many people. The sessions aren't as busy. The line for autographs and photo ops, nowhere near what I stood in the Las Vegas convention. So you do have a lot of those advantages being on the cruise because there are a lot fewer people. It's a much higher price tag. And also, I will say this as politically correct as I can. Because of that higher price tag, there is a certain stereotype of Star Trek fan that will go to the Las Vegas convention because they can afford it. They cannot afford to go on a cruise like this. So you didn't really see that type of fan. It was just more of an elevated experience. Also, there are some major perks to having this convention on a cruise ship. For example, at the Las Vegas convention, everything you touched cost money. There were a couple of free little photo stands, which they had on the ship as well. But if I wanted a snack, I paid for it. If I wanted anything but water out of a water fountain, I paid for it. However, I can't even tell you how many times on the cruise I would run out, grab a piece of pizza, pick up a couple cookies, and then run back into a panel or a session and eat those while I watched. So there are some definite perks to having it on a cruise ship as well. So yes, more like a convention, but awesome cruise ship perks at the same time. Do you have to dress up to feel included? Absolutely not. There were plenty of people who were just like me and wore Star Trek t-shirts almost the entire time. Yes, there are plenty of people who also wear costumes every day or wear a version of a uniform every day. There were some hardcore and incredibly impressive cosplayers as well who went all in on some of their uniforms and outfits and costumes. It was very, very impressive, but by no means was that the standard. There were plenty of people like me who wore Star Trek t-shirts, who wore Hawaiian shirts, and just were very casual throughout the week. So you certainly didn't have to dress up or get into costume to feel included. The theme nights you could participate in if you wanted to. And some of those theme nights had nothing to do with Star Trek, like the 60s night was really nice. It was kind of a break from the Star Trek theme and feel to it. So there are certainly things like that, again, you could participate in if you want to, but you don't have to. If you want to wear a t-shirt the whole time, wear a t-shirt the whole time. Maybe change it once or twice throughout the week so that it doesn't stink. But really, the only kind of costume that you can't, or genre that you can't get away with wearing, is something from Star Wars, because then you will get booed. What surprised you the most? Hands down, the amount of immersion. It was incredible. There was changes to every sign on every restaurant, every pub, every bar, every lounge. All of those were changed to fit into the Star Trek universe. The posters outside of the casino were changed to fit into the Star Trek universe. The card tabletops were changed. The soundtrack that we listened to over the ship speakers was changed. The amount of immersion and theming blew me away. I was not prepared for that, how cool that would feel and what that was going to be like. That went far above my expectations for that. And as a person who adores immersion, it was perfect. I loved it. And that was, to me, probably the thing that surprised me the most. Finally, would I go again? Absolutely. It'll probably just take me like 3 to 5 years to get back there. I really want to go when I know there's a good cast list of celebrities, some that I think I could interact with without throwing up, which is unlikely, but possible. Also some that I grew up watching that I can see in like other realms. It was the really coolest part to me was being able to watch them sing and perform and dance and mime and all these other things that they love to do, but at a Star Trek convention, they don't get to do because it's all Star Trek based. This gave them the chance to kind of flex those muscles and show other talents, which I thought was so cool. So I really do want to see some of the other celebrities that come through on the different shows and people that I haven't had a chance to meet or get a photo with as well, and hopefully begin to view them as a real person. So was Star Trek The Cruise worth it? For me, yes, but with a huge asterisk. I loved it, and I'm so glad I finally went. In fact, Nandy and I went to one of the conventions in Vegas 10 years ago and swore we'd go on the cruise someday. It took this long to make it happen, but it was worth it. However, because of the price, this feels much less like an every year trip and more like a once-in-a-while dream fandom experience. If you've been on Star Trek The Cruise in the past, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your take, what you liked, what you didn't like, and if you plan to go again. If you haven't been and you have more questions, ask away. You can comment below or I'll put my email address in the description. If you learned something in this video, please give it a like. Make sure you subscribe to my channel for other fun travel and adventure experiences as well. Happy adventuring, everybody.
Let's do the top.